Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the CVMSDC Lunch and Learn Power Hour with our guest today discussing opportunities on the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project. I'm your host and moderator, VK Fields with the PR Pros team, and we have yet another informative and interactive session planned for you today with Mr. Malcolm Cates of Hampton Roads Connector Partners. As we spend more time online in these virtual sessions, we do hope that you and your loved ones continue to be safe and healthy, and we thank you all for joining us this morning. Just a few housekeeping tips. All of our audience participant lines are automatically muted. However, you can submit a question to our panelists using the question box feature in your GoToWebinar dashboard on your screen. Also, today's session is being recorded and it will be available for you to review later or to share with your colleagues. And you'll be able to view that recording from the CVMSDC website at cvmsdc.org/webinars. Now I'm pleased to introduce our CVMSDC President and CEO, Dominique Milton, to open up today's session. Good morning, Dominique.
Good morning, and thank you so much, VK. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn series with Malcolm Cates, the Compliance Manager for Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project. Malcolm and I were just talking before we went live and learned that we're both from the same area in New Jersey, and we both grew up going through that Lincoln Tunnel, which always used to fascinate me. I say, every time I went through that tunnel, I was like, how did they build this tunnel? So today we are going to learn how tunnels are built in 2020, and we're going to learn about opportunities that exist for our suppliers to do business with the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project. So I'm excited today to have you here, Malcolm. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Just a bit about Malcolm before we talk about CVMSDC. Malcolm is a compliance manager for the $3.8 billion Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Project. Malcolm is responsible for ensuring the project meets or exceeds its historic small business participation goals while complying with all local, state, and federal civil rights, equal employment opportunity, and affirmative action laws. In just over 1 year, Malcolm has worked with his team and his VDOT partners to award over $35 million in contracts to hundreds of the region's minority and women-owned businesses. Malcolm has also been instrumental in creating an organizational culture within HRCP that encourages and fosters small business development and growth. Malcolm is an active member of the Nonprofit Association for the Improvement of American Infrastructure and the American Contract Compliance Association, the Virginia Asian Commerce Chamber of Commerce, the Hampton Roads Regional Black Chamber of Commerce, and other community and faith-based organizations. He has consulted on several multi-million-dollar public projects for national, state, city, and private clients. Before moving to Virginia, Malcolm served as a compliance sub-consultant on the Ohio Department of Transportation's $634 million Southern Ohio Veterans Memorial Highway Project. He also served as vice president for a leading New York City-based diversity public relations and integrated communications firm. Today, we welcome Malcolm Cates. Thank you, Malcolm. Is this the largest project you've worked on, Malcolm?
Yes, ma'am. And 3.8 billion, yeah.
Wow, that's tremendous. Okay, well, before we jump into your presentation, I always like to share with our audience our mission so that people understand the work that we do. So next slide, Valerie. The mission at CVMSDC is to expand business opportunities for minority business enterprises. We call them MBEs, and create mutually beneficial links between corporate partners and MBEs. The ultimate outcome is to add economic value to the supply chain while increasing economic opportunities in the business communities. I like to say we help build wealth by making those connections possible. We accomplish this through 4 pillars of our work. The 4 pillars are certification. We are the largest certifying agency of minority-owned businesses in the United States. We have 23 affiliate councils across the United States, and I just happen to be the president of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Also, once you get certified, the other pillars are extremely important. We help to develop our MBEs to make sure that they are the best of the best. And we have homegrown developmental programs. University of Richmond is one. We've graduated over 200 graduates from the University of Richmond. We have one hosted by Sunoco. We have one at Tuck. So we like to say, like tuning up your car, we encourage our MBEs to tune up their businesses every year so that you're getting the best of the best, Malcolm. And then connecting. This is a connecting event. By hosting connecting events, which are now all virtual due to COVID, we bring together our MBEs and our corporate partners in one room or on one Zoom call so that they can learn how to do business with each other. And then finally, advocating. Because of the sheer size of our organization with over 12,000 MBEs and members nationwide, and we also have international affiliates, we can advocate on a national, regional, and local level for our members, our corporate partners, as well as our MBEs. So that is the work that we do. If you need any information, you can go to CVMSDC.org for further information on membership or how we can help you. So with that, without further ado, I want to turn it over to you, Malcolm, so that you can share with our audience how they can get involved as suppliers and gain business with your organization. I'm going to turn off my camera so they can focus on you, and I'll be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dominique, and great to see you and meet you and reminisce about the Northeast, right, and some of the projects that have taken place there. And I'll certainly talk a little bit more about how they were built back then in terms of tunnels and how they're being built today. It's light years of difference, but I want to thank you not just for having us here today to talk about the project and to connect to the small businesses that work with your organization, but also for the great work that CVMSDC does each and every day, which is more important than ever, I think, right now. And
absolutely.
So thank you for the work that you do every day, and for helping us to achieve and exceed those small business goals that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project. This is a historic and iconic and exciting regional transportation infrastructure project. Not just the largest that I've been on in my career, but also one of the largest to ever take place in the United States of America. And at one point during its life cycle, it's anticipated to be the largest project in the country. So a lot goes into that. We'll talk a lot about that today, with a particular emphasis on opportunities for small business owners to be involved, and some of our workforce opportunities for minorities and women, including our OJT, or on-the-job training program. So, it takes all hands on deck to build a project like this. So we're excited to communicate these opportunities to you and to work with the CVMSDC, because partnerships like this, that connection piece in terms of those pillars that Dominique was mentioning, is vital in order for us to be able to achieve and exceed the goals that we have. And so, as she mentioned, my name is Malcolm Cates. I'm the compliance manager from the project. And so, in addition to some of the responsibilities that she mentioned, I work very closely with our partners on the public sector side at VDOT, namely Queen Crittenden and Sandra Norman from the Civil Rights Division of VDOT, who have been absolutely instrumental to our success so far, and who will absolutely be instrumental in our success throughout the life of the project. It's a 5-year project, and we're just lacing up, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I think we've been this successful so far because of their leadership and vision, and because they were brought in at a very early point in the project's life cycle. And anytime you bring civil rights in early in a project's life cycle, you see great results. So a quick shout out to them, and we can go ahead and jump right into it in the next slide, please. And also shout out to VK. Thank you for helping out with the presentation and a little video that we have for you today. So I'll tell you a little bit about the project first before we get into the small business specifics. But our joint venture, Hampton Roads Connector Partners, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment, won this contract just over a year ago in April 2019. There are a few different ways to build a project of this magnitude. A popular one is a public-private partnership, or P3 model, which really involves, financing from the private sector to get it built. This is being funded publicly, and it's being built as what's called design build, which is another popular method for delivering a project like this. And design build is exactly as it sounds. We spend a great deal of time at the outset of the project designing it. So that's what we've been doing for the last year and a half. And then we build it. And through the process of building it, we're constantly designing and refining and adjusting as the project is being built, because there are so many things you can't anticipate when building a project of this size. And because of that, and this is why I like to emphasize that it's a design build, you know, what it means to contractors looking to work with HRCP or work on this project is that things can change very quickly, even during the RFP process or request for proposal process. So we may release a request for a certain scope of work, and that could change in the amount of time that, you know, we've asked for proposals to come in. So, you know, being flexible, being nimble is key to success on a project like this, whether you're a large joint venture like ours or you're a small business looking to work with us. So that's why I like to emphasize that. Our design team is made up of HDR and Mott MacDonald, two world-class design firms. HDR is designing the roadway and bridge portion of the project, and Mott MacDonald is designing the tunnel portion of the project. We talked about the price tag, again, publicly funded with large small business and workforce participation goals, so we'll talk about those. And the project is scheduled to be completed in November of 2025. We're currently on schedule for that. You know, thankfully, through the current state of affairs, we've been proceeding on all fronts, which has, again, kept opportunities and the economy moving forward in a great way. So I'm very pleased about that. And we can go to the next slide, please. So this is our team. Dragados USA is the lead contractor on the project. Flatiron Construction and Vinci Construction, which is based out of France. And Vinci has done some fantastic projects around the world, and this is their first major US project. So very happy to have them involved. And Dodin Campanard Bernard, which is a subsidiary of Vinci, as well as our design team, HDR and Mott MacDonald. Next slide, please. So this slide, you know, is really in here to emphasize the incredible scope of work that will go into a project like this. We're going to be doing everything from expanding the existing highway lanes to building new bridges to expanding man-made islands, and then of course the boring of 2 brand new tunnels. All of which will effectively double, you know, the current capacity of the HRBT, which if you've driven through it before, you know firsthand how much it's needed. So that's great, and it's going to make travel to and from very easy. And so there's work on land, on water, underwater, and every construction trade you can imagine will be involved in this, from excavation to paving, clearing and grubbing, landscaping, to you know, tiling of the tunnels and building of facilities once all said and done. So I'll talk more about where the opportunities are for small businesses to be involved later, but just know that if you can think it up, it will be involved in this project in one way or another if it's related to construction, and in some cases otherwise. Next slide, please. So one thing I like to emphasize when talking about the construction of the project is that as a requirement, we need to keep 2 lanes of traffic open during the entire life cycle of the project. And what that means is 2 things. One, it's great because traffic will still be able to get through the bridge and tunnel as we're building it. And 2, there is a huge demand for maintenance of traffic opportunities. So if your firm is at all involved in maintenance of traffic in terms of either construction or material supply, please let us know, because that's something that's you know, a high opportunity area. It's generally considered one of the higher risk areas too, which is why I think there's more opportunity. You know, it's very tight quarters, you know, slim lanes, all hours of day and night. So maintenance of traffic is a particular emphasis on this project and a particular area of opportunity. But again, traffic will be maintained throughout the life of the project. Next slide, please. And I like to say, you know, it may take rocket science to build this thing eventually, but it doesn't take rocket science to understand why it's needed and what it'll be great about it. And that is, you know, again, if you've driven through the HRBT before, this is going to ease travel to and from quite nicely. We're developing a video to you know, paint a picture as to how it's going to look and how it's going to flow once all's said and done. So please stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, just know that it's really going to make things a lot easier getting to and from. It'll support emergency evacuation, make things much safer in terms of travel and widening, expanding all of the lanes and tunnels involved, and just make it a lot easier to navigate the region, which will be a great thing. Next slide, please. So this is our current snapshot of our project schedule. And so as I mentioned, it's a 5 or just over 5-year project. And that green line there, you see it says current is where we currently are. Most projects of this, most projects have what's called a limited notice to proceed before construction begins. And this project is so big, it has 3 limited notice to proceeds before construction begins. And we're still technically in our limited notice to proceed phase. So we really haven't started, even though we've had the contract for 1.5 years, we haven't started the major construction work, which we anticipate beginning in the very near future, before the end of this year. So as I mentioned, we've been designing, you know, throughout you know, the last 1.5 years, and some limited construction activities in preparation of the major construction. And again, we anticipate that beginning very soon. So while we talk about some of the participation numbers that we already have, keep in mind those are just for the design portion. So with 5 years of construction still ahead of us, we anticipate a lot more small business participation, namely DBE and SWAM participation, which again, I'll speak to in a moment, over the life of the project, with a final completion expected in November of 2025. So a lot of time between now and then, and a lot of opportunity between now and then. So next slide, please. All right, so now we'll talk a little bit more about one of the you know, engineering centerpieces of this project, and that's the tunnel boring machine, or if you're on the project, we loosely refer to it as the TBM. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk just a little bit about it before we show you a little video that we've put together for you. And before I talk about the slide, I'll speak a little bit to how, you know, the Lincoln Tunnel was built for my good friend Dominique, and how this one's going to be built. But the Lincoln Tunnel and a lot of other tunnels, including the original 2 tunnels on the HRBT, are built or were built by boring out, you know, or digging out the sediment and debris and all the ground and earth under the water, and then submerging, you know, prefabricating pieces of a tunnel and submerging them and connecting them all underground and underwater, which was very costly and time consuming. And with advances in modern technology, tunnels are now bored, excavated, and lined all at the same time, and all by the same machine. They're like something out of a science fiction movie, is what I like to say. And they're the size of a football field. This one in particular is going to be custom built, and one of the largest ever to bore 2 tunnels for the new HRBT. And it's going to bore 1 tunnel one way for 1 year. It's going to turn around and bore another tunnel the other way for another year, for a total of 4 tunnels, 2 in each direction for traffic, and all state of the art with technology running throughout. These things are like a city underground. They're very fun. And with this being the tunnel boring that's going to take place on this project being 46 feet in diameter, there will actually be the 2nd largest tunnels in North America. So very exciting stuff. And so with that, we have a little video to show you how it works, and we'll quickly jump into that whenever VK is ready to do so.
The TBM operates in 2 intervals. The segment ring is installed during the first interval. The concrete segments are provided by the segment feeder and lifted by the erector. In the installation area, the hydraulic cylinders are temporarily retracted in order to provide enough space for the new segment. The segments are positioned to the millimeter and secured by the cylinders immediately after their installation. After that, the segments can be bolted. The conical keystone is inserted from the front. At the end of this process, a so-called invert slab, which is a tiltable module, is installed in the invert of the last built ring. It is used as support of the gantry, which is now trailed. The supply vehicles can drive on the road element up to the segment handling station in the front. On the 3rd level, a segment crane transfers the concrete segments from the TBM rear to the front. With the transfer crane, the segments, which are supplied by the segment transport crane behind Gantry 1, are individually lifted, turned, and positioned on the segment feeder. The segments are continuously supplied by the segment transport crane. The rotating cutting wheel is pushed ahead by the hydraulic cylinders, and the material at the tunnel face is being excavated and removed through the suction line. You can now see the successive intervals, tunneling, segment installation, tunneling, and so on, in fast motion.
Okay, and I think that's it for the video. And I should have moved my little square out sooner, but you caught the best part of it. And Dominique, did you want to comment on that at all? Or
It's just absolutely fascinating.
it's crazy stuff, I tell you. And you know, when you think about opportunities to be involved in a project like this, think of everything that has to go into a machine like that. Lubricants, oils, fuel, the prefabricated concrete slabs that are being lined, you know, in the tunnel, and all on massive scales. So yeah, lots of opportunities to be involved.
Yeah, one of the things that I want our viewers to be mindful of as they listen to this, Malcolm, is to really think outside the box. I mean, you know, you think, okay, a tunnel's being made and I don't have the skills to do anything that we just saw, right? But you can provide food, you can have a food truck, you can provide sand, you can do the landscaping, as you said, you can help recycle materials, you can paint lines in the road and help with provide cones and clothing and PPE. So, I mean, the sky is absolutely the limit. We had an MBE who provided desserts, and she said, oh, I don't have any opportunity at BMW. And we were able to get her a contract at BMW providing desserts for them. So these guys, at the end of the day, they're going to want to eat cake, right? So, I mean, the sky is completely the limit. Just really think outside the box as you listen to the rest of Malcolm's presentation.
Thank you, Dominique. And that's exactly right. I mean, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, because it's easy to get intimidated, by when you talk about $3.8 billion or a tunnel boring machine the size of a football field. It's easy for a small business to say to itself, well, how am I going to fit into this? I operate out of my, spare room as a home
Right.
office. And one of the things I'll talk about a little later, and that I appreciate you emphasizing earlier on, is that, the way we look at it is there's no opportunity too big or too small for a minority or women-owned firm to be involved on this project. And so there are all kinds of opportunities that are unrelated to the construction, talking about catering and, landscaping or office supplies or, whatever it might be, that we will always consider for minority women-owned businesses. And we're open to ideas. So, what I encourage firms to do, because again, this is design build, we don't always anticipate things too far in advance, is to get in touch with me, get in touch with our office. We're soon going to have a website too, but us knowing that you're out there and that you can provide cupcakes, or that you can provide, whatever it is that we may need at any moment's notice, we'll have you on our radar, we'll have you on our list, so that when that time comes, or a cupcake or a cookie or whatever it is, we're going to call you. We're going to send you the RFP. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I've already sent some people your way, people who can do excavation, people who worked on the bridge project here in Charleston, doing recycling and some of the major work there. But what is the first step for an MBE that wants to get involved in this project? Do they register on your site? Walk us through that.
Sure. So taking it back even a step further, I think connecting with your organization is the best first step, because again, our relationship is key, and those pipelines of referring firms to us is great. So again, CVMSDC is critical to the chain in a way. Also, if a firm doesn't have its certification yet, they should connect with you, right? Once
Right.
they're ready, whether it's calling me, emailing me, calling my associate Malcolm Jackson, emailing Malcolm Jackson, for now is the best way to connect with the project, because we're going to make sure you're in our system everywhere it needs to be. We want to keep it simple for you. So all you need to do is shoot us an email or call us and say, hey, I do this and I'm interested in hearing about opportunities, and you'll get them if and when they come. And once the website's done, which we anticipate mid-August or so, then there'll be another resource for information and connecting. But for now, connect with us. It's always the best way, because then we can put a face with the name and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So you mentioned certification with us, which is always a first step, but then do they need to be DOT certified as well, or any other certifications are required?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. So
okay, I'll let you go.
That's fine. I'm happy to talk about it any way you prefer, and I enjoy talking with you. So yeah, we just to sort of jump ahead a little bit, what certifications are required by the contract in terms of our goals are Federal Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE certification, and Virginia, and that has to be in the Commonwealth of Virginia in order for us to be able to count the participation towards our goal. The other is Small Women and Minority Certification, or SWAM certification, which is Virginia's state certification program.
Absolutely.
So those are the two metrics that we're measured against in terms of our goal attainment, and that we're held to in the contract. But we still give priority to small business and minority and women-owned business, even if it's not necessarily counting towards our goal. It's still what we consider a value add, and still important, we think, for the project and for our success in civil rights on the project.
Awesome.
So yeah, so obviously those certifications add a lot of value and can that much more value, but we still consider small, woman-owned and minority, regardless, you know.
Excellent. Okay.
Any other questions before we move on to?
No, you go ahead. We'll let you finish your slide presentation, and then we'll open it up for
You can
questions
stay
with
if
our
you
audience.
want. You can.
I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay
All right.
with you.
All right,
You felt
great.
alone there, right? Go ahead.
Appreciate it. I don't feel so on the spot. No, just kidding. Okay. So just following up with the tunnel boring machine, it's currently being designed and assembled, built and assembled and tested in Germany. And so they're going to do all that in Germany. Then they're going to disassemble it and ship it over here over several months. You can't just FedEx something like this, right? And then it will be reassembled here in a 65-foot deep launch pit, and it'll begin mining early 2022. So yeah, it's crazy stuff.
You need logistics people also.
Absolutely. Project management, logistics. You know, we'd consider a DBE or SWAM firm to build the TBM if there was one, but you know, with the price tag on these things, I think you'd probably graduate from any of those programs very quickly by selling just one of them. But the point is, you know, we're happy to consider it. Again, no opportunity too large or small.
Excellent.
And another fun thing about the TBM is we're going to have some of the Hampton Roads schools do a naming contest before the end of this year. So
that's outstanding. Okay.
That'll be fun, and we can go ahead and go to the next slide, because I think considering the time, I want to get to some of the DBE and SWAM and small business progress and opportunities. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So here's some of the goals for the project. We have a 12% DBE or disadvantaged business enterprise goal, and again, that's a federal certification, and a 20% small women and minority business goal on the project, and again, that's a Virginia state certification. And so lots of opportunities. We don't necessarily, you know, I shouldn't say that. In order to fulfill those goals, we're willing to consider any scope. So let us know that you're out there and that you're interested in being a part of the project, and we'll make sure when that opportunity comes up that you know about it. We also have, you know, for folks that are looking for a job as opposed to business owners, we also have minority and women workforce participation goals in all of our different trades. So welding, you know, laboring, you name it. We have a need for minority women employees in those areas. And even if you don't have experience in welding or whatever it might be, we have a great on-the-job training program that you can not only get paid while you learn, but you can, you know, obtain skills and experience that can apply to other projects, whether they're in Hampton Roads or, you know, the Carolinas, right? Or elsewhere in the country. So anywhere you want to fit in, as long as we know that you're interested. Again, all hands on deck needed for this. Please let us know, and we can, you know, connect you with the right people here if it's hiring or otherwise.
And should I assume, Malcolm, that those salaries are higher than normal?
Yes, that we have. So we have Davis-Bacon wage requirements on the project for both HRCP and any subcontractor on the project to make sure that the compensation is lucrative. And so, yeah, so it's great for, you know, recent college graduates that aren't sure what they, you know, want to get into, high school graduates that want to earn money right away instead of, you know, putting money down for a college degree right away. You know, for any sort of career in construction, it's a great place to start out, and who knows where it might lead, you know.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I applaud you for having these goals in place and being diligent about trying to attract this audience. We built a bridge here in Charleston with very small amounts of participation, and so I applaud you for being proactive in this.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I think that I want to emphasize how important getting civil rights involved during the planning of a project like this, you know, results in that.
Right.
because they ensure that these are set throughout the life of the project, and they ensure with our, compliance, of course, that these goals are met and exceeded. And we intend to for every one of these. I'm confident enough to say that we will, thanks to connections like this with CVMSDC. So thank you. And so, kind of as we were talking about, Dominique, we look at every opportunity as a small business opportunity first. And, we try to connect as much as possible with firms and people that are interested in working with us. So whether it's virtual events like this, or, we hold an annual conference that this year will also be virtual. That will take place later this year. I don't have a date quite yet, but we'll be sure to communicate that as soon as possible.
Perfect.
We're always open to ideas, open to speaking or connecting, whatever it is, we want to be available. So
Perfect.
I do have our contact information later in the presentation, so please feel free to reach out to us. And I know we're going to circulate this recording after the event too, so you'll have an opportunity to get it too.
Absolutely. And we have an event at the end of the year, and we're going to have a focus specifically on construction, matchmaking opportunities for construction that I'd like to invite you to. I like that middle bullet there, where you say you break scope packages into smaller packages to provide more opportunities and maximize participation. That's really important, because you have some MBEs who can do the bigger pieces of work, but they still need to partner with somebody for this scope. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that we do and everything that we encourage, we are open to considering. So whether it's partnering and joint venturing in order to, be able to take on larger scopes of work, or if it's a matter of us breaking a larger scope into smaller pieces in order to make sure we can have participation, we'll do whatever we need to do in order to make sure we get that participation. And that's really how you're going to project this big. It's the only way you're going to, meet and exceed the ambitious goals that have been set for us. So another interesting thing that we do that, has been new, at least to my experience, is we award our team members internally within HRCP for their efforts for small business inclusion. And just like, we consider any opportunity as DB and SWAM, any employee at HRCP, no matter their scope of responsibilities, plays a role in our successful civil rights. So we've awarded folks in accounting for expediting checks to small businesses that have needed them. And we've awarded, supervisors that have proactively identified opportunities on their team for DBE firms to supplement. To our IT guy, our IT guy, Charles Mitchell, shout out to Charles, who I know is not tuning in, but I'll let him know that I mentioned him later. He's had some small procurements for monitors, keyboards, mice, cabling, whatever it is. And he's foregone his historic, comfortable relationships with vendors to take risks on DBE SWAM firms that are interested in working with us. And we want to make sure that those efforts, even though they're not the boring of a tunnel, are recognized, and that other team members see that, so that they start, doing more to make sure that we're successful.
That's outstanding. It's coming from the top down. And one thing that you said is very important to our suppliers is payment terms. The fact that you have some flexibility there, specifically, right now, especially during COVID, people are needing payment terms, moved up faster. And so the fact that you're open to doing that is very important to our suppliers.
Yeah, and one name I have to mention when we're talking about top-down support and leadership in this area is our project executive, Jose Ignacio Martina Los, who has been extremely supportive of DBE and SWAM participation on the project, and is why we're able to do some of the things we do internally. So I just want to emphasize how lucky we are to have him too.
Perfect.
So, and this is just a real quick snapshot of some of the things we do. We do a lot more of that with our, in partnership again with our VDOT
Sure.
partners.
Okay.
We can go to the next slide, please. So this is our current participation, and actually, VK, this was the one slide I had updated, but I'm happy to talk about the current numbers. It's not too far off, but again, in the last year and a half, we've awarded, I want to say 128 agreements with small businesses for over 35.7 million in contracts. So construction hasn't even started, and we've awarded, over $35 million to small businesses, with hundreds of millions to go. So again, whether you're a catering company like Success Catering by Sheila, which you see down there with my associate Malcolm Jackson in the lower left-hand corner, who won its first award as a certified SWAM through this project, or you're a printing company like Minuteman Press, who's in the center photo there, or you do building renovation like Oak Remodeling in the third photo there, who did some renovations on our building here. We want to connect with you, and we'll consider you for any of the scopes of work that we have. So these are all scopes that you wouldn't think about when you're thinking about a highway, right? But we've needed them. So
Perfect.
very pleased with these, and we expect those numbers obviously to go up quite a bit with the start of construction too. So we're looking forward to that. Next slide, please. So here's some of the specific upcoming opportunities that we anticipate. Again, I've talked a lot about maintenance of traffic. So with the tight confines of these highway lanes and trestle bridges, lots of guardrail repair, attenuator repair, seeding, mulching, mowing, a lot of the landscaping work that takes place on each side to keep it clean and accessible. So lots of maintenance of traffic opportunities on the project. Lots of procurement of materials. So, we've talked about a few, whether it's catering or otherwise, but specifically, we've had a big need for small tools recently, and we've been meeting with a lot of small tools vendors, whether in person or virtually. So, that's a great opportunity for people to be involved. Concrete washouts, concrete barrier wall, both supply of the barrier wall and the installation, or potentially even slip forming. It, I guess, depends on how the design team ends up wanting to build those, but they're coming, right? And then there's lots of opportunities to be involved with those. Signage, both installation and repair. So there's permanent signage, there's temporary signage, there's all kinds of signs, right? On a construction project like this. Curing compounds, which I'm not as familiar with, but if you are, please let us know that you're capable of providing those, and we'll let you know what we need. Lubricants, I mentioned temporary trestle materials. So those are the temporary bridges that we're going to be building. We'll be sending out, a scope of work for the materials that we need to build those. All different types of temporary facilities and equipment, both for rental and purchase. So, porta-johns, office facilities, and things of that nature. We have some of that in place, but there's an ongoing need. And again, sometimes we can't anticipate where and when we'll need a lot of these, and they just come up. And so if we know that you're out there and this is an area that you can provide, we'll contact you. And then, we have
what about bonding? What about bonding for these services? Are you expecting a certain level of bonding and insurance?
Yes, and it does depend on the area. And depending on the area, it can get pretty high. The one thing I can assure and is that we work with every firm that's interested in working with us on a particular scope on, number one, obtaining that bonding and connecting them with bonding resources, and two, doing anything else that we can to work with firms as far as that bonding is concerned.
Excellent. Okay.
if we can be flexible with a requirement, for example, we're willing to do it, and we'll go through our legal team and every step necessary
Okay.
to push for whatever will make it work with a small business.
Excellent.
Because,
Let's get to your wrap up so that we can open
Sure.
up a Q&A. I want to give you plenty of time for that.
okay, yeah, no problem. Next slide, please. I think I'll talk about, I think this is an important one. How we communicate our RFPs or our opportunities is through a program called Smart Bid.
Yes.
You can upload your proposals. We send determinations through them. You can ask questions through there. In order to get in Smart Bid, you don't have to go to Smart Bid. Again, just connect with myself or my office, and we'll make sure that your firm is in Smart Bid when we send out an RFP, because again, we want to keep it very simple. You just have to contact us. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Just some contact information and information on some resources that are available. So we have a monthly newsletter, which you can subscribe to, and a Tunnel Talks podcast series, which is great. That's produced by Paula Miller in our communications department, as is that monthly newsletter. Both great sources of general information. Again, our project is anticipated our website, HRCP, the joint ventures website, is anticipated next month, mid-August, and I'm holding our communications team to that. Steve, if you're tuning in, and on that website will be a robust resource for DB and SWAM firms and employment opportunities, including upcoming opportunities and how you can connect to them. In terms of upcoming outreach, we have our annual conference coming up in the fall, which will take place virtually. We will be sure to share that information with you, Dominique, and involve CVMSDC as much as possible. We're involved in monthly hiring events with Virginia CareerWorks and Virginia Employment Commission. We're doing some community roundtables, which we were actually talking about before we came on. So we'll be sure to share more information about that as those are available. And finally, the next slide, please, will show, of course, there's the Business Opportunity Workforce Development Center, or BOUD Center, for free supportive services in Virginia for DBE and SWAM certified firms. They can also assist with certification. So if you need some free supportive services, there's financial reimbursements and things like that, but great resources all through the BOUD Center. And then the Virginia Certification Unit, and I think it's particularly relevant to firms coming from out of state, is Virginia Small Business and Supplier Diversity, or SBSD. There's their contact information to get certified in Virginia, and of course, CVMSDC can help you there. And then finally, next slide, please, is our specific contact information. So there's my phone number, my email address. Malcolm Jackson, my associate, who's also heavily involved on the outreach side. There's his telephone number and email. We both answer whenever we're available to answer, and if we don't, leave a message and we'll get back to you, or shoot us an email. Malcolm and Malcolm, it's like a law firm, so if you throw Malcolm out there, somebody's going to get back to you. Bob Carney's our new procurement manager. That's a typo. And Bob is great. It comes from another really big project in Texas, and is 100% committed to DB and SWAM and small business participation on the project. So he's a great guy to be familiar with and connect to even if you're not a DB or SWAM firm and you're just in working on the project. And then as far as employment opportunities, Cheryl Correa is the best person to contact for those. So if you would like a job, please reach out to Cheryl. Feel free to copy me on any of your correspondences with any of the people here, and I'll be sure to do what I can to help you too. And with that, I think that's what I have.
That's outstanding. Thank you so much for the connection information. And we are partners with SBSD. And so, it all comes together, and we will do our work, Malcolm, to make sure that we're communicating all of the opportunities that you have available, all the events that you're going to have hosted. So thank you so much for that. It's a fascinating project. That $3.8 billion, it is our goal to make sure that we get the maximum number of participants in the program. The numbers you put up are just the minimum goals that you have. So hopefully we can always exceed those goals. But with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. VK, do we have any questions coming in from the audience?
Yes, we do, Malcolm. Thank you so much for that very detailed presentation. We have a number of questions that have come in through the question box feature, so we'll get right to them. The first is actually a comment to both of you. It says, there's no question, but this excites me to a totally different level. Love Malcolm and love CVMSDC. The first question is, will there be opportunity on the precast segments of the tunnel?
Yes, the answer is yes. And I need to check with our procurement team as to where we are in that process. I don't know if an RFP has been sent out for it yet or if it's forthcoming. But if you can connect with me and let me know who you are, I'd be happy to get you an answer for that specific opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, can we be certified with Virginia, DBE, and SWAM, or do we also have to be certified with CVMSDC?
That's a very good question. And I'll answer the first part, and I'll let Dominique correct me if I misstate anything. But my understanding, as far as I'll stay with the DBE certification, is you need to be certified in your home state first with DBE certification. So if you're from one of the Carolinas, either North Carolina, South Carolina, you have to be DBE certified in either North Carolina or South Carolina before getting DBE certified in Virginia. And the good news is that should make the process a little easier by the time you apply for DBE certification in Virginia, but it is something that you need to do first, and that's a part of the federal requirement that's not unique to Virginia. So great question, and yeah. I think, yeah. Go ahead.
And certification, some people look at certification and say, oh, it's too expensive for me to process a certification. But what we bring you through certification are opportunities like this. We help bring everybody to the table so that you're not having to look for opportunities individually. It's never, I shouldn't say it's never. Some organizations like a Walmart or Lowe's, it's required that you are certified through our organization. As I said earlier, we're the largest certifying agency in the United States. Fortunately, we have some scholarships that are available for individuals who are not certified with us now. There are scholarships that are available for individuals who qualify. I think the one that we have right now is you have to be in business for 3 years, have to have $250,000 in revenue, and there's scholarships out there to help you get certified. When I was an MBE, we had every certification that you can think of, women-owned, minority-owned, 8A certified, because we want to help folks like Malcolm check the boxes to say, hey, we've met those criteria. So by getting that certification, we can help you and you can help our corporate partners. I hope that helps.
Okay, we have a comment, just a thank you from the city of Hampton. These partnerships are so important. And then the next question, is it possible to get the DBE revenue limits increased anytime soon? As Malcolm says, this one job can possibly cause graduation from the program.
That's I think that's part of a much larger conversation. Know that I'm all for it, and one of the good things that's built into the program is that if you win a substantial contract on a project like this, we still get to count your participation on the project through the life of the project, which is again at least 5 years. And so because of that, there's still an incentive for us to do business with you, and we don't have to be concerned about you necessarily graduating from the program. So in terms of project specific, there are some mechanisms in place to help us still work with you and still make your certification valuable to us, whether you graduate or not. Having said that, I know there's a lot of conversation around growing the DB program thresholds, and I'm a huge supporter of it.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so if they're not qualifying as DBE because they're over the threshold, they still qualify to do work with you. I mean, we have $12 billion MBEs out there who could do work with you, and you can count them in a different way. It's just a different bucket.
Absolutely. And one other thing, we've talked about how certification adds value and how we still consider minority and women-owned and veteran-owned, which is something we really haven't talked about as a value add. You still have to be competitive. You know, we have really high goals, and obviously there's a lot of value in the certification. And the firms that we find that are successful on a project like this, you know, are great at what they do, and then that certification is again a value add. So that then the certification becomes their competitive differentiator. And at the same time, our decision makers like a Bob Carney, you know, or the rest of the procurement team, when a procurement comes up, they think, you know, for excavating, if you're a small business minority-owned excavating firm, they're going to think of you, you know, because they're thinking of an excavator, not necessarily just a DB or SWAM minority-owned firm. But my point is, if you be great at what you do and then have those as a value add, you're going to be really successful on a project like this.
I am so glad you made that point, Malcolm, because I preach that all the time. It's like an FDA stamp of approval you put in your back pocket, and when you're asked, yes, you are, but you lead with the value and the savings and the innovation that you're going to bring to the table. That's all that you want to hear about, right? Is how you're going to help make this project better, help us save money, help us get it done faster. And oh, by the way, I am certified.
Right.
So thank you so much
becomes,
for that. Valerie, we have time
the icing
for
on
more
the cake.
questions.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
That was the last question in the question box. So Dominique, I will turn it back over to you before we wrap up today's session.
Okay, sounds good. So we clarified the first step because we are ahead of the curve here. The first step is to reach out and to contact you via email, make a phone call, make themselves known. And then when the platform opens up, they can then get registered in that platform, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just want to clarify that. So Malcolm, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for partnering with us. We look forward to growing this relationship. And if there are any MBs out there who want further information, please reach out to us. We are going to be sharing the presentation. The whole video will be live on our website. We'll share it with Malcolm. I appreciate we had over 50 people attend today. But again, this is going to live on in perpetuity. And so other individuals will be able to learn about this opportunity. I am so excited that you're being proactive. So hats off to you and thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. I've already received a few emails, so thank you.
Oh, that's excellent. BK, thank you.
You're welcome. We had two more additional comments, not questions. One saying, thanks for the info. I feel motivated. And the second one just saying, awesome job. So our time is up for today's session. We want to thank Malcolm Cates and Dominique Milton and all of you all for joining us. We hope everyone has a fantastic day. Be well and stay safe, and stay tuned for our next session.
Thanks so much. CVMSDC.org. Stay tuned and visit our calendar for future events. Have a great day.
Bye-bye now.